We recently asked a few industry experts to weigh in on some steps people can take to improve productivity and labor efficiencies in the warehouse. Here's what they had to say.
Well, the first thing is to jump in on some type of technology that makes sense for your business. I think actually before that, understand that there's a labor challenge. Like you can't get away with paying 50% of market premium anymore and retain labor. And guess what happens when you turn? You pay twice as much of labor expense. So I think the good news is most folks nowadays are catching up to the fact that you can't just rely on Jimmy, Joe, Bob, and Sue to show up to work every day. You have to have something to supplement that activity so that Jimmy, Joe, Bob, and Sue can be the best Jimmy, Joe, Bob, and Sue they could be and do the more productive, more valuable work at the warehouse. And I think we're seeing that the good news is ROIs are easier to justify now, right? Because now my capital spend and my labor is easier. But I think that a lot of companies are realizing that it's not just the dollar for dollar. If I can't get my product out the door, I can't make money. So I have to do something different today. So I think labor cost is actually a huge driver, and it's not just the US, it's globally. So we're seeing activities in like Mexico where there's never been a huge push for automation. All of a sudden, they've doubled their labor rates in the last 6 months to retain talent. So now we're seeing automation go in places we didn't normally see it.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Right now, we have lots of customers who are telling us it's not just people showing up and labor showing up for work, but turnover is very high. So there's a lot of retraining that's going on and various other things. The other thing we found is people and humans like to be incentivized to do high value tasks as well. So things like a simple unloading task where it's, pick up a box and move it from point A to point B are not as high value at task as someone making decisions on how should picking be executed and other various things. So as you deal with the labor market, what we're encouraging people to look at first is how do we use these automation technologies here at Fromat to reduce those low value tasks from people to open up the workers they do have that are highly skilled to do more highly skilled tasks. So that's one way that we go about it. And it could be something as we're working with a customer this week who's looking just to move trash from point A to point B with a robot instead of a labor person. So then that person that was moving trash can now go pick product for customer or do value add services for customers where there's not a good robotic automation solution in those kind of really unique niche special areas. The second thing we're seeing is really cool in my opinion is gamification in the warehouse. So how do we incentivize workers to be able to compete with their teammates and build teams of, did picking team A do more productivity than picking team B today? And can we reward them with extra vacation days or flexible time off? Or, can you get a TV after you accumulate so many points? And so I think finding a way to gamify in the labor management space is also going a long way to incentivize employees to show up. And in fact, we've even seen different retailers and distribution providers able to pay their employees more by doing these sort of incentive logics and by replacing the low value skill workers with robotic automations, because there's a lot of really quick ROI and total cost of ownership returns when it comes to that.
Some of the reasons that companies are evaluating AMRs and looking to implement them, and this is sort of universal, this is a global phenomenon. It's not just a North American or European problem, is number one, just scarcity of labor. It's a problem we're seeing worldwide. There's just not enough good available labor. In addition to that, wage rates for warehouse workers have gone up to unprecedented heights. So those two combinations are probably the major drivers as to why companies are looking to implement AMRs. And when we talk about workforce labor shortage in a distribution center, most people focus on the floor. I like to talk to partners and customers about the workforce shortage, not only at the floor level, but think about being a supervisor or a lead in an area or an HR person or the manager of the DC. You have to deal with this constant labor problem day in and day out. High turnover, constant training, constant interviewing. So it's an organizational-wide impact that are driving a lot of people to AMRs. The other is, believe it or not, safety for workers. We reduce work-related injuries because I'm not pulling a cart, I'm not pulling a heavy pallet jack, etc. So the soft side savings and workforce safety and injury reductions are a big factor as well.